previously the Principal Geologist at BHP Nickel West and Exploration Manager at St George Mining Limited.
Great, thanks for that. Today I'll just go through the Auroch's high-grade nickel sulphide projects in Western Australia. I'll give you an update on where we are in terms of our exploration and some scoping studies, and also a bit of a strategy going forward. And that photo there is the head frame over the access to the historic underground nickel sulphide mine at our Nepean project. Usual disclaimer, there's also a list of ASX releases used in this presentation. So, Auroch, we're committed to delivering 100 kilotonne contained nickel in resource. We hold highly prospective nickel sulphide tenure in the Norseman-Wiluna belt within the Kalgoorlie terrain. We have 3 projects strategically positioned in a Tier 1 jurisdiction, near infrastructure and surrounded by world-class mining projects and multiple processing facilities. We have a JORC 12 resource inventory of over 21 kilotonne of contained nickel at 2%. That's at our Saints project, you can see on the left there. The scoping studies and revised resource estimates we're currently completing. They'll be due next year. We believe there's significant exploration potential in the short term with multiple drill programs planned. We're currently completing one, completing at the Nepean Deeps target, and we have a solid cash position of 2.6 million. Plus, in August, we completed underwriting of the remaining November expiry 10-cent options for proceeds of 1.6 million. Before I get into the projects, brief corporate summary. That was our share price, 17 cents per share as of yesterday. That gives us a market cap of just over 50 million. I've mentioned the cash position, nil debt, and top 20 shareholders own 29% of the company. On the right is our experienced board and management team. It's expanded in the last 12 months, and we believe we have a good mix of financial and technical disciplines to move the company forward. And recent broker coverage from PAC Partners issued a 32-cent price target. Right, so we're strategically located in a globally significant location. By that I mean located in the Norseman-Wiluna belt. All our projects are in this belt and which is home to some of the best commodity-hosted nickel sulphide deposits globally, i.e. the Leinster, Mount Keith, Kambalda and Widgie-Multha centres. Excellent infrastructure, easy access, multiple processing plants are within trucking distance, and we have our core yard and exploration support close by in Kalgoorlie. And we believe there's significant exploration upside on these projects, kilometres of underexplored prospective ultramafics, and in many cases, a lack of modern-day exploration techniques have been used. So that's just a quick portfolio snapshot. As mentioned, the 3 nickel sulphide projects, Nepean, Saints and Leinster. Nepean is a 80-20 joint venture with Lodestar. Auroch have the 80% interest. The Saints is 100% owned by Auroch, and that has the existing JORC 12 resource as mentioned. And Leinster is south of BHP's Leinster tenements. That's 7 tenements, 3 of those are 100% Auroch and 4 are a 70% joint venture with Gingerly Resources. And as mentioned, plenty of exploration upside. I'll go through that in a minute. And we also have 3 base metal projects in South Australia I'll touch on. Right, so Nepean itself. Nepean is a high-grade nickel sulphide mine with historic resources and exploration potential. It was discovered in the late 1960s, not long after Kambalda. Production commenced in 1970 and was completed in 1987. Auroch acquired the project in December last year, as mentioned, an 80-20 joint venture. The Nepean nickel mine produced just over 32 kilotonne of contained nickel at an average grade of 3%. It's a very high grade and high tenor nickel sulphide mine, and we believe there's a potential to build a significant high grade nickel sulphide inventory via 3 focus areas. First of those is Nepean Deeps, so looking for the potential down plunge continuation of the mineralised ultramafics below the historic mine workings. That's where we're currently exploring. Around the historic mine area itself, looking for the remnant nickel sulphide mineralisation around the historic workings, and also looking in a potential crown pillar area just less than 100 metres from surface. There's 2 images down the bottom. The one on the left, the red is what they call SIL 2, the green is SIL 3. That was pre-mining, and then on the right is the remnant mineralisation around the old workings that we're currently looking at as part of a scoping study. And we're also looking at the regional exploration potential. There's over 10 kilometres strike of underexplored ultramafics in the package. So when Auroch first acquired the project last year, the first area to look at was around the existing mine. The historic Nepean nickel mine was constrained at depth by a large pegmatite dike. One suggestion may be that was analogous to Western areas when they had the Flying Fox nickel mine in the Forestania belt. In 2003, they drilled through their felsic intrusive and got into the first of several mineralised terraces. And potentially that could be something we're seeing at Nepean. There was never really much drilling. There's about 100 metres, 150 metres, probably about the deepest they drilled back in the day, into the pegmatite, and said, don't worry about it. And we've said, well, let's have another look at that. So Nepean itself was down to 500 metres depth and has produced 32 kilotonne, whereas Flying Fox, as an analogy, is over 1.2 kilometres and has produced over 115 kilotonne nickel to date. So a pretty attractive target and hypothesis, which we have just tested. So the Nepean Deeps program completed the first hole yesterday. This was drill hole NPDD008, ended hole at 1291 metres. We completed slower drilling to ensure the hole tested the target area, which we based largely off the seismic there, and that hole took 6 weeks to complete. NPDD8 was drilled as a stratigraphic hole, and it was to test for any footwall contact below the historic mine. And we're also using it as a platform hole for downhole geophysics, which we're currently completing. So downhole EM, that's electromagnetics, and MMR, magnetometric resistivity surveys, to detect any massive or matrix and disseminated mineralisation within 100 to 150 metres from the hole. So the hole was a success. It drilled through it's the first hole to actually drill through this thick pegmatite below the mine. It intersected a greenstone sequence from 993 to 1291 metres into hole. And importantly for us, included 46 metres total of ultramafic over three intervals there. They look to be similar to the orthocumulate ultramafics hosting a large part of the Nepean mineralisation, and we're quite excited about that. We're currently completing some downhole geophysics as mentioned, and further drill holes will be planned based on the geological interp and also the downhole geophysical results. The seismic itself, that was acquired in 2014 by the previous owner's Focus. We're currently completing some reprocessing and interpretation of that, involving also taking a sonic tool to site to measure seismic velocities of the hole we just drilled, which should be fed into the interpretation and the algorithms used to update to complete the reprocessing. But even that survey itself has proved pretty useful. You can see there, if those zones where the lower or weaker reflectors has actually picked up the thick pegmatite intrusion pretty well. High reflective units picked up the greenstone pretty well. So it's been a pretty good tool, and as a first pass, effectively wildcat hole, it's been very successful, and we'll be doing some further drilling shortly. Moving back up to around the mine itself, Auroch have completed 15 RC holes and 1 diamond hole around the shallow to test for shallow mineralisation. The results extended the strike of the shallow high-grade nickel sulphide mineralisation in SIL 3, south of the historic underground mine. So it's looking to be a pretty interesting area. We've got a sample of that core at our booth if you want to have a look. That was from hole 7, which intersected 4.64 metres at 2.99% nickel, only at 71 metres depth, and 52 8 metres at 3.2 nickel, including 2 at 7.5. The core certainly looks fresh, but we need to do some metallurgical testing to see what the recoveries will be like. We planned 6 metallurgical holes to drill, some in that southern area there where we got that mineralisation, and also some actually above the old historic workings where we've defined the 2 lenses of high-grade nickel sulphide mineralisation at less than 100 metres depth. And this is all part of a larger scoping study that we're completing with P1 Australasia to assess the potential to deliver any near-term production at Nepean. And then stepping out, looking at the belt itself, Auroch have completed 36 RC holes and 2 diamond holes along a large portion of that strike length of interpreted ultramafic north and south of the mine. The results have confirmed that fertile ultramafics largely coincident with the mag anomalies. Thick ultramafics with disseminated nickel sulphides were intersected in multiple holes along strike. And we're delving into the geochemistry a bit more. We looked for things like nickel chrome greater than 1 to determine potential lava pathways, elevated nickel to MgO and also PGEs to see if we're close to these pathways, and also looking at the old Campbell ratio, nickel over chrome times copper over zinc, and a few other ratios and elements we looked at, and it highlighted a lot of the belt as prospective, but an area really of interest that a lot of anomalies in elevated ratios were getting right in the northern section of the belt. The northern 3 or 4 tenements really stood out, and there's only been minimal drilling there. So we've got a ground IP planned survey over the northern tenements as soon as we can get a crew, and we also completed moving loop surveys along a large portion of the belt and downhole EM surveys on all the holes, which have highlighted additional targets that we'll be testing in the next round of drilling. We're currently awaiting on 17 of holes from the second phase of RC, which was 19 holes. So turnaround time's a bit slow at the moment, as we all know. It's about 2 months in the lab, but once we get those results back, we'll assess and define targets for the next phase of drilling. And in the background, we're also looking at the gold and lithium potential. So a lot of the focus is on Nepean at the moment, but in the background, we've got 2 other nickel sulphide projects, and the first of those we're looking at is the Saints. The Saints has an existing JORC 12 resource of 1.05 million tonnes at 2% nickel and 0.2% copper for 21.4 contained nickel and 1.6 kilotons contained copper. This provides a clear pathway for Auroch to develop and complete development and mining as nickel price increases. We believe there's potential to extend these primarily lava channel positions at depth, which of course will increase the current resource. So moving forward, we plan to continue exploration on the regional targets. You can see there on the right, T1 to T6. We're also looking for depth extensions to the known mineralisation and possible infill drilling to upgrade the known resources, which are currently at inferred status. This is also forming part of a scoping study that we're completing with P1 Australasia to assess potential underground mine scenario at the project to deliver near-term production. And moving further north again is our Leinster nickel project, where there's known massive nickel sulphide mineralisation. Discovered back in the Leinster days of the Horn. The Horn has thick, massive nickel copper sulphides at shallow depths over 500 metres strike. A couple of examples of intersections there through the ore body, 14.66 at 2.19% nickel and 7.3 at 2.2. There's been minimal historic exploration along strike over a large part of the air mag anomalies. Auroch recently completed 5 diamond holes and 8 RC holes along the Horn trend. Confirmed fertile ultramafic units along the mag anomalies at the Woodwind and Percussion prospects north of the Horn. Intersected thick disseminated cloud nickel sulphides, an example there, 72 metres at 0.46% nickel within cumulate ultramafics. And all the assay results are now received and the downhole plates are being modelled. We're going to complete a technical review in the near future to refine the exploration targets for the next drill program. There's a photo of the massive sulphide there from the Horn. And very briefly, I'll just touch on what we're doing in South Australia. So Auroch have 3 base metal projects in South Australia. The one we're planning to drill at in the next few weeks is at the Regulus Range zinc target. It's about 35 kilometres northeast of Port Adelaide in Cambrian sediments, and it looks to be like a SEDEX style deposit, or hopefully a deposit SEDEX style mineralisation. And Auroch did some drilling there a couple of years ago. They got 12.8 metres at 5% zinc, including 3.65 at 15.5% zinc. Most of that seems to be in smithsonite, which is a zinc carbonate, which often forms in the more oxidized proportions around sulphide mineralisation. They completed a gravity survey, which highlighted a 3.5 kilometre gravity anomaly there in the regional syncline adjacent to extensive zinc anomalies from soil sampling, outcropping gossans and high-grade drill intersections. So it's a priority target. We're going to drill that in a few weeks' time, including doing some downhole radial IP surveys. So looking ahead, there's a lot going on at the moment at Auroch, at least in the next quarter. We've got the Nepean Deeps maiden drill program. So this drilling and downhole geophysics program, exploring for the high-grade nickel sulphides below Nepean. That's our current exploration focus. We'll also complete some shallow metallurgical drilling, either at the end of the program or between drill holes. We'll assess that soon and get that assessed shortly to see the recoveries. We're going to look at further RC drilling around the regional targets at Nepean. As mentioned, we're waiting a lot of assay results, but we have got some results from the moving loop EM and the downhole EM surveys have generated additional targets, and we would like to get on the ground and do that IP survey soon. Saints drilling will probably happen starting next year. We plan to do some extensional drilling around the known mineralisation and infill drilling to upgrade the known resources. Diamond and RC drilling back at Leinster along the Horn trend, and based on the technical review, plan some further drilling, including some downhole end plates that were generated from the last program. Diamond drilling program is mentioned to commence at the Raglas Range zinc target in a couple of weeks' time in South Australia, and we're completing our internal scoping studies. So they're well underway, and they're going to be reviewing the design, optimization, and production scenarios, primarily at the Saints deposit, but also looking at Nepean and continuing our discussions with BHP and other potential partners regarding reviewing the metallurgical test work, toll treating, and offtake agreements. And just there on the right is our rough schedule moving forward. And just briefly to touch on why nickel, why Auroch. Well, the nickel price has been doing pretty well in the last few months, dipped off a bit in the last couple of weeks, currently around 18,000 a tonne US. Within the broader nickel market, the scarcity of nickel sulphide deposits is contributing to an even greater shortage of Class 1 nickel, which is 70% sourced from nickel sulphides, not to be confused with Class 2, which is those MPI projects, which is forecast to flood the market. And Goldman Sachs has a 12-month price target for nickel of 24,000 a tonne US, which would be nice. And nickel, like these other metals and minerals shown on the right, is critical for the world's clean energy technologies. Nickel demand is forecast to increase fivefold in the next decade. This year, global sales for EVs is expected to exceed 2 million. And then by 2030, they forecast 20 to 25 million EVs. And obviously a large part of nickel is in the NMC 811 solid state battery, which is 80% nickel, 10% manganese, 10% cobalt. And also on average, the Tesla models use 45 kilograms of nickel, which is good. And that's it. Thanks for listening.